I never thought that day would come. The day I would return to the very place that once made me feel small, unnecessary, and invisible within my own family. But today, I'm driving down the old red dirt road toward the house that held me captive in guilt and inadequacy for nearly 3 decades. Not because I miss it, but because I've changed. And this return is nothing like the ones before. I'm no longer the 23-year-old Isla, the girl who left in silence, without a farewell, without anyone stopping her. Now, I'm Isla at 28, and I have a reason to come back. The dark gray SUV slowly pulled up in front of the 2-story wooden house, tucked away in the outskirts of Jackson, Wyoming. The place I was born and raised, but never truly belonged to. I bit my lower lip, my palms sweating against the steering wheel. Not out of fear, but because of memories. For the past 5 years, I've lived elsewhere, worked in environments no one here would dare imagine, but to my family, all of that was just childish nonsense. They never acknowledged my efforts, never once asked with genuine interest about the life I was building. Even now, I'm sure they still think of me as the girl who dropped out of law school to chase a nowhere job out of stubbornness. I opened the trunk, took out my travel bag, and at the very bottom lay a small plastic ID card. Silent, unassuming, a symbol that if they knew, might make them look at me differently. But no, I didn't come back to show off. I came back because I was about to attend a major family event, one they couldn't ignore me at any longer. When the old wooden gate creaked open, my heart pounded, not out of emotion, but because I was about to step into a world where I'd always been compared, always ranked lower than my half-brother Chase. The so-called pride of the Beckett family. As agreed upon by the whole town. The front door was unlocked, same as always. I pushed it gently and stepped inside, the familiar scent of lavender room spray hitting my nose. The old photos still lined the walls, Chase standing between our parents, receiving his MBA from Stanford, beaming. And my picture? Oh right, there hasn't been a photo of me on that wall since I left law school in my sophomore year to enroll in a specialized training program in South Carolina. I thought you were never coming back, my mother's voice called from the kitchen. No hug, no glance. She was Sandra Beckett, sharp, put together, and always living by a checklist she had for each member of the family. I was the only one who never made that list. I came back for Dad's company event, I replied curtly. I heard someone from the department is coming. Yes. Your brother was chosen to lead the presentation team. He's very good, she said proudly. Chase is now the lead project manager. Your father trusts him completely. I nodded, gripping my bag strap tighter. Just as I expected, every conversation would orbit around Chase. And me? Still just the cautionary tale, the one who went off script. I excused myself and went upstairs. Everything seemed untouched since 5 years ago. The oak twin bed, the faded floral blanket, the dusty academic trophies from high school. But nothing from the time after. Not a single certificate from my military training, no photo of me in uniform. This room was the version of Isla they chose to preserve, the obedient, promising girl, before she went off track. I opened my bag and took out a small velvet box. Inside was the highest honor I'd received in the Tech Special Operations Force. I never mailed it home, never expected them to understand what it meant. But tomorrow, at the Beckett Advanced Systems event, where my father is the regional director and Chase is the rising star, I would appear. Not as the forgotten daughter, but as the official federal representative overseeing a military contract worth hundreds of millions. I closed the box and tucked it back into the suitcase, not to hide it, just waiting for the right moment, a moment when they could no longer ignore me. The dining table was still in its usual spot. Beneath the lily-shaped chandelier my mother bought on a European trip she never stopped talking about. I took my old seat beside the glass cabinet filled with heirloom china. But tonight, it wasn't nostalgia that tightened my throat. It was the stifling air of a dinner I wasn't really invited to. Isla, I remember you used to sit there. It's been a while, my mother said, her voice thin as tissue paper. I I smiled faintly, careful as if walking on thin ice. Yeah. 5 years is long enough to disappear from some people's memory. My father looked up briefly from his iPad, furrowed his brow, and returned to scrolling. Across the table, Chase entered in a tailored shirt and designer tie, as if this dinner was a job interview. Isla is still freelancing? He grinned, scanning me for weakness. Still bouncing between temporary projects? Before I could respond, Mom jumped in, eager. Your brother was selected to lead the military tech pitch, personally picked by the executive director. Not an easy task. Oh really? I raised an eyebrow. Must be thanks to exceptional skills? Or exceptionally close family ties? Each word dropped like a stone across the table. My dad set the iPad down, meeting my eyes for the first time that evening. The director needs someone who understands production workflows, Isla. Not someone who just sits there taking notes and issuing theoretical directives. Chase chuckled. Or someone always on the move, doing God knows what. Picked up a piece of roast beef, chewing slowly, taming the storm inside. Mom abruptly shifted topics. Oh, and Isla, your cousin Madeline just got recruited by a top law firm in D.C., same age as you, and already working with the House of Representatives. Good for her, I replied. By the way, Mom, have you ever thought about asking what I actually do? She paused, startled. Well, I assumed it's still something tech? Short-term contract stuff, right? We hold a permanent position in a federal agency under a long-term classified contract, I said evenly. And if I mess up, hundreds of millions go down the drain. Jay snorted. Sounds intense. What are you, some kind of government hacker? Not a hacker, I said plainly. I'm the one who tests the systems you think are unbreakable. Dad shrugged. Let's not be hostile. Every job has its own role. Oh, fake. I sent you both invite to my award ceremony, I reminded them. No one showed. We were busy, Mom mumbled. It overlapped with the shareholder meeting. Memories like that stick, I nodded. Just like how no one ever forgets Chase's birthday. Silence. Words sliced the air like glass shards. I took a breath, pushed my chair back. I'm going to wash my hands. Isla, Dad called, voice lower. We only ever wanted what's best for you. I stopped at the doorway, turned back, eyes locked on his. No. You wanted what fit your mold. And everything I chose, you treated as betrayal. I stood before the old mirror in my room, the one place I used to feel like myself in this house. My reflection shimmered through its cloudy surface, but this time, it wasn't the girl desperate for a place. It was Isla, the one holding the keys to a game no one in this family knew was hers to play. I opened my suitcase, unzipped the black leather case with the combination lock. Inside was my formal uniform, each insignia arranged like a map of achievements no one here had ever asked about. I brushed the collar where Isla Mem Beckett gleamed beside the insignia of the Federal Security Directorate, where I now served as Chief Strategic Supervisor. 6 months ago, I was appointed Senior Advisor for National Tech Security Contract, and tomorrow's meeting at Beckett Advanced Systems, my family's company, was the turning point. They had no idea that the official coming to review their $320 million 0-cents military deal was me, nor that I had full authority to halt or restructure their entire team, including the one my mother had praised nonstop, Chase. I shed my wool cardigan, put on a black dress shirt, and opened my laptop. I accessed the classified dossier for Project Sentinel Core. Every technical file, budget sheet, and Chase's presentation draft stared back at me. I had reviewed it all 3 days ago, after receiving direct orders from the top. The project shows signs of financial discrepancies. Beckett Systems needs a full audit, and we believe you are the most qualified to do it. On the screen, a highlighted figure made me frown. 6% of the allocated budget for the UI optimization category, led by Chase, was inflated. I had cross-checked it with numbers from the Pentagon. This discrepancy could freeze the contract indefinitely. With one click, I sent a request for a detailed technical report to the internal audit team. The email was signed, Isla M. Beckett, Senior Federal Security Consultant. It was also the first time my name was attached to my father's company in a position of real authority, not as the rebellious daughter. I closed the laptop and looked at the uniform hanging carefully on the rack. On the shoulder, the triple bar insignia with a silver star glinted under the room light. It was the result of 10 years of relentless work, from remote bases in Nevada to conference rooms in Washington, D.C., where I once stood before generals to defend national tech strategies. The clock struck 11 p.m. Downstairs, the living room lights were still on. I heard a chair scrape across the floor, probably my father, writing his speech for tomorrow's big event. He had no idea that the person he'd be presenting results to was the very daughter he once mocked, chasing vague ambitions instead of joining the company and learning real leadership. I stepped out onto the balcony. The cold wind cut across my skin, but I didn't flinch. In my heart, every gust of doubt had long since gone silent. All that remained was readiness. This return wasn't about recognition. It was about making them finally see the truth they had ignored for years. My phone buzzed with a message. It was from Evelyn Grant, my superior and the only person in my life I ever called a mentor. Good luck, Isla. Don't hold back if they disregard protocol. You have full authority. It's time. I gripped the phone. Her words like one final surge of strength. Evelyn was the first person to tell me, "You don't need permission to be seen. You just need to show up at the right time." And tomorrow, that would be the time. The ground floor of Beckett Advanced Systems gleamed at 7:30 a.m., LED lights reflecting off the gray marble floors, as if the whole building were preparing for a VIP guest. But no one knew that guest was me. I stepped out of the car, my formal uniform fitting like a polished layer of armor. Elegant but commanding. My nameplate and special insignia sparkled under the early morning sun. The security officer at the main gate looked up, his eyes widening slightly when he saw the badge on my shoulder. "Good morning, Federal Security Liaison," he said, standing straighter. "May I see your ID?" I pulled out my military ID and appointment letter from the Department of Homeland Security, my voice calm. "Isla M. Beckett. I'm here for the strategic meeting and evaluation of Project Sentinel Corps." He reviewed them quickly, then pressed a button to summon the executive elevator reserved for high-clearance visitors. "Right this way, Colonel. The conference room has been prepared." The 8th floor, reserved for strategic-level meetings, greeted me with the soft hum of a high-efficiency ventilation system. I stepped out just as Chase stood near the elevator, tablet in hand, clearly reviewing his speech. He turned around. At first he furrowed his brows. Then his eyes blinked hard. Finally, he instinctively took a step back. "Isla? What? What are you wearing?" "Representing Homeland Security for this morning's project review," I replied evenly, as if reading from protocol. "And yes, the uniform is mandatory." Before he could say more, my father appeared from the meeting room. He froze, as though a storm had materialized in his office hallway. "Isla," he growled. "What is the meaning of this?" I walked past them, letting nothing knock me off course. "The meeting begins promptly at 8. We should take our places." Inside, CEO Lori McKenna, undisputed powerhouse of Beckett Systems, sat at the head of the table, department heads surrounding her. Her gaze scanned the room like an X-ray, but when she saw me, her sharp eyes softened slightly. "Colonel Beckett." She stood and extended her hand. "I wasn't expecting you in person. What an honor." The scale of the project and some recent discrepancies made it necessary for me to attend, I said. I took my seat at the chair labeled Federal Liaison while my father sat stunned beside Chase, not daring to meet my eyes. The meeting began. Department heads presented their reports. Slides glowed with charts, figures, and polished language. Chase took the stage, launching his intro with the confidence he had flaunted the night before. Under my coordination, the team has optimized the interface to better suit the department's requirements. Pause, I said. Not loudly, but with enough force to halt the room. Chase froze, clearly unaccustomed to being interrupted. This optimization is based on which version? I asked, eyes fixed on the screen. 2.1 or 2.3? He looked around, mumbled, I think 2.1. 2.1 was pulled 3 weeks ago due to a security leak. Which team approved your revisions? Silence. Lori tilted her head, eyes narrowing. We'll recheck, Chase deflected. I continued. And the UI analysis cost 6% of the total budget, around $19,200,000 0 cents. Still lacks an acceptable breakdown. I requested a reconciliation 3 days ago. Nothing has been received. Lori turned to the finance team. They lowered their heads, faces pale. The room fell into near suffocating silence. I stood, voice steady. As the federal security liaison, I have the authority to demand a full reassessment of the current project phase. Any components not meeting standards will be suspended pending an internal audit. Lori nodded, then turned to Chase and my father. I want a detailed report on my desk by 5 p.m. today. Include personnel allocation, budget justification, and any internal affiliations. I exited the room, leaving behind a trail of stunned expressions. And in that moment, I knew the battle had begun. I knocked 3 times on the heavy wooden door marked Albert Beckett, Regional Director. A shaky voice responded inside, trying to hold composure. Come in. I walked in, still in full uniform, insignia gleaming, posture unshaken. My mother, Sandra, and Chase were already there. All 3 turned to me as if I were a stranger entering a world they never truly understood. I closed the door, letting the silence stretch. Can you explain this? My mother asked, her voice hoarse. You really... with the department? Not just representing, I replied. I am directly responsible for the entire Sentinel Corps contract. I have the authority to suspend, investigate, or reassign anyone involved. Chase scoffed, visibly thrown. So you came here to humiliate us? I crossed my arms, gaze like ice. No one came to take revenge, Chase. But if truth feels like humiliation, maybe that says more about you than it does about me. My father's voice sharpened. You hid this just to shock us in front of the board? I gave a soft, unapologetic laugh. I sent invitations to my colonel promotion. The whole family was busy. I called when I got accepted into the federal task force. You hung up after 30 seconds. Mom texted back, take care of yourself. That's why I stopped sharing. Talking to silence is exhausting. My mother looked down, speechless. Chase stared at me like trying to redefine who I was. You're a colonel, my father repeated, voice stripped of its usual certainty. How long? Almost 8 months. God. I sat across from them. For the first time, I didn't feel small. Dad? Mom? I don't need an apology. But I do want one thing. The truth. What do you mean? My mother asked softly. I mean admitting that I'm not a failure, that I didn't bring shame to this family, that I've succeeded in my own way and I owe no one an explanation. My father crossed his arms and sighed. All these years, I thought you were just running away. No, I replied, my voice steady as stone. I was stepping out from the shadow you all placed over me the moment I was old enough to say no. Chase moved closer to the table, his tone gentler. I didn't know you had achieved so much, honestly. No one told me. I looked at him. You never asked. Every time you called, it was about the house, the company, your trips. I was always the listener, never the one being asked. He lowered his head. That was wrong of me. The air in the room grew heavy. No more blame. Just the remnants of years of silence. I used to think, my father spoke again, slower now, that stability was the most important thing, and you You were too different. I was afraid you'd fall." "I did fall," I said, "many times, but I got back up, not because someone helped me, but because I knew I had to keep going." My mother stepped forward, gently placing her hand on the table. "If I could go back, I would do things differently." I didn't avoid her gaze, but I didn't soften either. "Sometimes we can't go back, but we can start over. If you're willing to see me for who I really am." All three were silent. I stood, looking at each of them. "I have a meeting with the tech team at 2 p.m., but if you'd like, tonight, we can have dinner, not to talk about the project, just dinner, as a family." "Aslama," my father said my name, no title, no judgment. "Thank you for not turning your back." I nodded. "Because I never wanted to leave forever. It's just, no one ever truly asked me to stay." I opened the door and stepped out. In the hallway, the midday sunlight stretched across the floor. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was leaving my family, but slowly bringing them closer to my real self. My apartment in the capital isn't big, but every corner bears my imprint. Bookshelves color-coded, a desk lamp angled at a global cybersecurity map, and a lone medal resting in a frame beside the window. From the 17th floor, I can see the government buildings I used to enter like a shadow, unknown to anyone. Until now. Tonight, I did something I never thought I'd initiate. Invited my entire family over for dinner. No special event, no department memo, no need for ironed shirts. Just a meal. A test to see whether the words spoken 6 months ago had truly sparked change, or merely patched up the awkwardness of that boardroom encounter. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find my father, holding a picture frame. He looked a bit unsure. "I brought this. Figured you should have a copy." I took it. It was a photo of me at the Sentinel Core strategy launch, standing between military generals and CEO McKenna. The headline below read, "The woman behind America's digital shield." I paused. "Where did you hang this?" "In my office. Right behind my chair," he said. "Everyone who walks in sees it." I gave a slight nod. "Thank you." My mother followed, carrying a tray of baked apple pie. "I'm not sure it's as good as it used to be." The scent of cinnamon, rich yet comforting, filled the room. "As long as you made it." She smiled, for the first time without hesitation or careful wording. Chase and his wife came last. He brought a bottle of red wine, the kind I used to love in college but was never mentioned at family gatherings. "You still drink this, right?" I nodded. "You remembered." "My memory's improved lately," he winked. We sat around the table. No head seat, no reports, just people who had quietly survived something. My father raised his glass. "I should have said this a long time ago. I'm proud of you, Isla. Not because you got promoted or ended up in the news, but because you chose the harder path and never backed down." I put down my chopsticks and looked at him. Not to wait for praise, but to remember how he said my name, without attaching anything else to it. My mother added gently but firmly, "At first I thought you were rebelling. Now I see, you were living true to yourself, and I had no right to call that wrong." I didn't answer right away. I just nodded, smiling softly. Dinner passed with a calm that felt almost surreal. No hidden competition, no one on trial. After the meal, I poured coffee. Chase walked over and quietly studied the sticky notes around my workspace. Network infrastructure charts, training schedules, quotes from Eleanor Grant. "About last month," he said, "we followed your exact model. The tech team thought I was a genius." I raised an eyebrow. "Did you say you got it from me?" "I did. After 5 minutes of taking all the credit," he admitted, a little embarrassed, "but I corrected it later." I laughed. "For real?" "Good. My team's tracking the efficiency metrics anyway. If you stick with the plan, results will speak." "You think we're doing it right this time?" I looked at him. "For the first time, yes. Because you're finally listening." My mother moved toward the window. brushing her fingers over the medals on the shelf. She studied them for a long time without touching, then turned back. "You used to keep these in a box, didn't you?" she asked. "I did," I said. "Now you display them, does that mean you're opening up?" I nodded. "Partly, but the rest depends on whether everyone else is willing to keep that trust." She came closer and hugged me, tightly, genuinely, for the first time in years. Not the polite hug of a reserved mother, but the slow, sincere embrace of someone making amends. "I don't need everything to be perfect right away, but tonight something has changed. And for me, that's enough to begin again." Isla's story is a powerful reminder that not everyone will recognize your true worth from the beginning, and that's okay. When you choose your own path, you may have to face loneliness, doubt, and even disregard from those closest to you. But with quiet determination, persistence, and self-respect, you can change how the world sees you. In real life, validation doesn't come from pleasing others, but from living true to who you are, completely. What are your thoughts on Isla's journey? Have you ever felt underestimated by your own family? Share your story in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more moving stories about family and the journey to reclaiming yourself.